It's May 5th. We've got business and social today. Chris is out.
Be sure and leave a comment to let Krista know that she's missed.
She's got a garden update video on the forums.
She's really throwing herself into the garden thing for sure. She seems to enjoy it. I wonder if this level of gardening fervor is sustainable. You don't think so? Think it'll be something new next year? Think it'll be a kitten and then a baby? Yeah.
Maybe not in that order.
Well, Krista isn't the only one working on exciting new things. TSMC is also working on exciting new things, and they're the only ones, it seems, who are able to work on these exciting new things.
TSMC update, 2 nanometer in development, 3 and 4 nanometer on track for 2022. But the headline here really is that Apple is in full production of 5 nanometer. So, I don't know. The Anatech article has a bunch more information. This is just, 5 nanometer. The M2, the M1 is selling like hotcakes. We've got a ton of stories about that are related to that. TSMC is absolutely killing it. And that's really impressive considering the global shortages for darn near everything. I can't even get ceramic capacitors. So...
And TSMC is also, they call those, the big customers like Apple, the alpha tier customers. And they're looking to bring on more alpha tier customers for the really, really advanced stuff.
Like other companies that are struggling. Intel, for example. Oh, too soon.
Why would they need this technology? And iOS 14.5 is out. It's got some new features, and I don't really care about it. But the big one is that one that Google and everybody else are so upset about.
iOS 14.5 delivers, unlike iPhone, with Apple Watch and more diverse Siri voice options and new privacy controls. And the privacy controls, of course, are what you're alluding to.
Yep, it's finally happening. When you start seeing this.
Allow app to track your activity across other companies' apps and websites. This is a kind of malicious compliance. Like, Apple is not in a position to care about this. But if Apple made money from advertising, this wouldn't even be a thing. But it's also it's not like that Apple is good. Apple is hideously evil. They're just, this whole situation is just frustrating.
Also, every possible combination in terms of race and gender for the heart emoji.
Oh,
critically important.
Excellent.
Been waiting for so long for that. And Apple, perhaps flying on the thermals of the success of that M1 chip, doing a little expansion.
Apple to establish North Carolina campus, increasing the U.S. spending targets. This is going to be in the technology, triangle, I guess is what that's called. And they're going to hire a lot of developers and programmers and smart people to work on stuff, which I think is probably long overdue.
I bet a lot of that Biden money is going to make its way onto the Apple campus.
Yeah. It would be fine if Apple wasn't hideously evil. They're the worst kind of evil because they're not plainly evil. You have to dig into their motives, and it's like, they're manipulating things.
Yeah, and one of the things that you can do when you have that level of influence and power is you can question the very definition of basic words, like buy.
Or own.
Yeah, those seem like really, really basic things. In fact, our whole culture is based on it. That's what we do. We're capitalists. But Apple says, you don't understand that word.
Apple must face a lawsuit for telling consumers that they can buy movies and TV shows. So it turns out when you bought something from Apple, it could disappear at any time. There's an ephemeral component to it. Now, the guy involved in the lawsuit hasn't actually lost access yet, but he could if things are down. And so he's saying that he didn't understand that when he made the purchase. And, yeah.
Here's the quote that Apple says, and they said this with a straight face. How could you? How hard do you have to sell your soul to tell this lie and be able to do it?
Apple contends that no reasonable consumer would believe that purchased content would remain on the iTunes platform indefinitely.
You're unreasonable.
I bought a record. I don't expect it to, evaporate in a couple of years. But it could.
Well, I mean, over time, I suppose it could. Everything will just break down. But it'll last longer than a human.
Probably.
Yeah. The iTunes store, not so much. And when it comes to feeding people video, giving them video content, of course we think of Apple. We think of Netflix as the big one. Netflix seems to be the beloved one.
We think of our beloved subscribers on Patreon and Floatplane.
And that's the weird thing. Because we also have subscribers on YouTube.
No.
But we don't get much from that.
The algorithm doesn't want us to have those.
The algorithm doesn't much like us, and they certainly don't want to share any of the money. Up until recently, they reported all of their earnings as one big Google blob. But since they spun off YouTube, they've been reporting it separately, and now we know this.
YouTube is a media juggernaut that could soon equal Netflix in revenue. YouTube is on pace to bring annual revenue comparable to Netflix. Wow, you would certainly never know that by looking at ad revenue.
God, doesn't Netflix invest a lot in their intellectual stuff?
Like billions of dollars?
They pay people to make these shows. What a crazy business model.
Patreon.com/level1.
How long until Netflix comes out to their biggest producers and it's like, could you guys just start selling T-shirts? Because we don't really want to pay you.
That would be kind of depressing. It's like, what were you talking about? Bone and Fire or something?
Shadow and Bone.
Shadow and Bone. It's like the actors come out and we're like, we've got our own Patreon. We want to keep going with the
GoFundMe.
Yeah.
Season 2.
I would actually do that. I would, like, if there was like a season 3 of Altered Carbon crowdfunded, I would be all about that.
That's happened a couple times already, hasn't it?
With some things, yeah. I think it came back that way, surprisingly. Initially, it was the crowd interest in it.
That would not have been one that I would have fought for.
They messed up the ending really bad. Like, it was really good when it was at its peak. If it could be at its peak again, I would pay for that.
Can never go back.
Yeah.
And if you are one of those people who hates the new world of streaming because the human frailty of indecision, there's that great story. I remember reading about the marketing stuff when I was reading about Bernays and all that, about the ice cream company.
Yeah, you can't have too many choices.
Too many flavors will wreck your ice cream sales because people are just like, I don't know. And as someone who's been trying to find diet orange soda, I'm overwhelmed by the number of things you can buy, and Netflix has finally figured out that that's a problem, and this is their solution.
Play something. Netflix launches a button for indecisive couch potatoes. You literally just hit play something, and it'll just play it, and then you can say, did you like that, or did you not like that? And then it'll find other things to do. That makes sense.
And it gives them a nice new data stream.
I've noticed this also happens a lot with grocery delivery, because it's like, no, I don't want you to substitute that. And they're like, oh, you'll like this. Trust us. And then I'm like, I don't want that. And they're like, well, I'll just keep it anyway.
Yeah, that's probably where entertainment will go eventually.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is what we've decided you're going to watch today. My Spotify kind of does that.
Disney definitely does that. This is going into the vault. You will not enjoy this anymore. Oh, okay. Thanks, Disney.
Now, we heard about Tesla and their changes to their whole Powerwall thing. They updated some pricing. They've reduced some of the stuff you can get. They've changed some of the models. And I think it was all leading up, or is currently leading up, to this master plan.
Tesla wants to make every home a distributed power plant. So you get a couple of power walls and the grid is struggling in your area. Guess what? Your home is going to help out the struggling grid in your area. It's pretty brilliant. This is a smaller scale version of what he did in Australia that literally solved Australia's electrical problems.
But it didn't solve it, because remember, they were still having that offset where they had to charge people.
Well, it's solved in whatever area they worked in, but now he wants to do it in like whatever the other area was.
Well, that's what this is. So the Australian thing, the solution was build more poles and infrastructure. But you don't have to build more poles and infrastructure if you can get everybody to put power storage in their home. So then the grid can just balance itself like that.
Seems like we should still invest a little bit more in infrastructure. This just buys us time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what happens if, there's some sort of like social movement? It's like, turn off the walls.
Or a mild rain.
Yeah. Or, an ice storm when there shouldn't be one.
A mild weather event. Oh, no.
Or volcanic ash. Yeah. I guess the regular power grid wouldn't save us from some of those things.
Yeah.
And oh boy, are some of you not going to like this, because this is the dark truth that no one wants to admit. And that is that Tesla without the helping hand of the evil shadow government, would be bankrupt.
Tesla loses a lot of money selling cars, but it makes it back on credits and Bitcoin. So this is from Jalopnik. Please redirect your rage there, not here. And this is saying that, hey, if it wasn't for government subsidies, no one would buy these things. And it's not actually making cars that makes Tesla money. It's all of the other things. And that is an interesting way to look at it.
And they sold fewer cars than they did the previous year, and they lost about $1,000 per car.
It says without the $619 million in energy credits, which are tapering off or something before too long, and the BTC sales, which is, the cryptocurrency stuff, Tesla would have actually managed to lose $181 million in Q1.
Well, yeah, the reason the credits aren't going to last forever is because every time one of the traditional car companies brings on an electric car, they need fewer of them.
Yeah.
So time's running out. But it was a brilliant move with the Bitcoin. But at this point, keep in mind, you're not investing in a car company. You're investing in a cryptocurrency hedge fund.
That also makes cars.
Yeah, poorly. Now, we talked about this story yesterday, but this just points out the extreme protest coming from Team Bezos about this decision.
Bezos Blue Origin protests NASA award astronaut lunar lander contract to Musk's SpaceX. Mostly they just seem to be saying that the proposal response is flawed because it doesn't cover ABC, XYZ. And, I don't know. I really would like to read it, but what they describe sounds like Musk's characteristic, like cowboy, let's just get started on the work and we'll figure it out later, which is exactly what he did with the Vegas tunnels.
It's exactly that, because the timeline is everybody came back to them with their proposal, and NASA was like, you're all insane. We don't have this much money. We have about half this much money. So go back and tell us you can do it for half this amount of money. And Blue Origin and some of the other people were like, I don't even know if that's safe. And Tesla was like, yeah. And we got it. Don't worry.
We're sending Jeb up right
now. And did you see his statement about he expects people to die on Mars? Under his watch. Yeah. He should know. And self-driving car world, of course, Tesla, I guess they are still the leader. Would you still call them the leader?
Yeah.
But competition is hot, and everybody's trying to get in that space. And people who tried before are now giving up.
Lyft will sell its self-driving car unit to a subsidiary of Toyota for $550 million. Listen, when Level 1 gets big, this section would have been, preceded by a montage of Lyft and their executives saying, self-driving is the future. By this time next year, Lyft drives are going to be all self-driving, because there's a lot of that. There's just a crazy amount of that. But yeah, Toyota's going to buy it. I hope Toyota does more vetting of this kind of thing than GM, because I would be surprised if Lyft really has anything tangible. I mean, I could have hit up Toyota. It's like, look, I got this little model that I did in the Unity engine. You want to buy that?
I'm sure they've got something, but it's got to be better than what's already out there. It doesn't make any sense.
Could be. I think we're looking at another Nikola, but I don't have any. It just smells funny. I don't have any evidence or anything to support that.
Who needs evidence?
I just think
it's 2021.
It just doesn't smell right. I don't know. Something weird going on.
We just go with our feelings. And you know who went with their feeling and slashed to the bone? This was a brilliant move, I think, because this leaves only one still standing, and it's the king. But how long can the king stand up to this pressure?
Microsoft shakes up the PC gaming industry by reducing the Windows Store cut to just 12%. If Steam, Valve, I think that's what you're alluding to, follows suit, this will upend a number of things. But I think this also really severely weakens the whole Fortnite argument with Epic and Apple, and that leads into our next story.
Yeah, and Valve is still at 30. Yeah. So a massive cut. They were previously 30. And as you alluded to, you might think that Epic and Microsoft, because of their common enemy, might work together.
No.
They would not.
Fortnite is not on the Microsoft Xbox Cloud gaming service because Epic will not allow it. So honestly, I think this is a masterstroke by Microsoft to go to 12%. because it's going to make Epic's case a lot harder if the judge is looking at this kind of thing. On the one hand, Epic is going to say, yes, that's what Apple should charge, 12%. But on the other hand, because Epic has not been dealing with Microsoft in kind of a clean way on their store, it kind of undermines some of their arguments in the case.
Now, Microsoft wants to be sort of a sub-channel in everybody else's distribution platform.
Yeah.
And they're saying that every time they've approached Epic about that, Epic was like, no, you're a competitor. And that is the excuse Epic is using for not giving them Fortnite as well.
It's also not really clear. Like, Gabe Newell saw something horrifying from Microsoft in the era of like Windows Vista to Windows 7, which made him consider like Linux gaming, and has made Valve fund a number of projects that have made gaming on Linux actually a lot better. We have a lot to thank for Valve in terms of gaming on Linux. And I wonder if some of whatever the vision that was shared with Gabe Newell under NDA is some of this, because the very low App Store commission could bring more games, not just to the PC side of the Microsoft Store, but the eventual, unification of the Xbox Store stuff and the Windows Store stuff. Because gaming on your Xbox through your Surface, and your Surface doesn't have to have graphics horsepower. There's a lot of opportunities to get tendrils in all kinds of other markets, and then like Apple, you're basically stuck on that platform. You can't mix and match devices from different places.
I guarantee the Linux gaming percentage is so small they don't really care.
Well, they're still funding it, so it's nice.
No, it's good PR.
Yeah,
it's a nice thing.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful hope, I suppose. But certainly, if Microsoft is involved, that's never going to happen. Well, as you said earlier, online grocery delivery.
This is kind of a dark timeline story.
It's really catching on, and it's become more and more ubiquitous. People are now depending on it, and like you say, it has its downfalls, like the substitutions. They're aggressive about those, but they want more and more people to be able to use it and to have access to it, and so that's why they're doing this.
Instacart expands online shopping to include food stamps. So if you depend on food stamps for your nutrition, you can now use Instacart.
Some places. Aldi, Publix, and one I didn't recognize. Did you recognize that third one? But they are trying to bring more and more online to let you, and this is Snap. I think it's just Snap at this point.
Yeah.
You can use your Snap card to pay for things for delivery. Can you use that for the delivery fee? I don't know if I agree with
Probably
that.
not.
I mean, I guess if you don't have transportation, it kind of makes sense.
Still kind of dark timeline.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, this is getting to the point, the darkness here is that the Biden plan really, really makes everybody dependent on the government in a massive way.
But they're so dysfunctional.
So you're sitting at home, you're getting your free income, you're getting your food delivered to you, you're sitting there, you're consuming the propaganda all around the clock. What kind of citizens are we making here? I mean, is this not, what's the Disney movie where they were all just in their power chairs in space?
WALL-E.
That's it. Are we not advancing rapidly toward that?
If you've seen Walmart, it's already like that. Everyone's in a power chair.
Well, of course, the pandemic is somewhat starting to fizzle out, I guess. I mean, I don't know if we're super close to things being back to normal. I did notice that no one at the gas station was wearing a mask today.
Oh, that's horrifying. Because not all of them are, I guarantee you, not all of them are vaxxed.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not.
And they probably should still be wearing a mask anyway.
But it does seem like a lot of people are ready to just start coming back and start doing everything like we always did before. But perhaps some of the larger corporations will slow down there because, oh boy, are they saving money.
Google has saved over $1 billion in not having people work from the office. And it's not because real estate. It's because of all of the other stuff that goes with going to the office. Because Google had like a concierge service and a laundry service and
massage,
food, and just all kinds of stuff.
Not just food. They had like really good chefs.
Yeah,
that all is a very expensive. Although if you half and half your way back, because that seems like what most companies are doing, right?
Yeah.
Like some of you can come back, and if you don't want to, you don't have to. But do you still cut those services?
I think it would probably be a capacity thing. I think that the happy medium is probably coming to work a few days a week to just do the stuff that, makes sense to do in a small team, and then working from home. Like when when you're eyeball deep in work and you know what your tasks are and you have a comfortable place to work at home, that's a big distraction free. Then it's fine. There's not really any productivity loss.
But I'm saying that makes excellent sense for your employees. But what about the guy making the breakfast burritos?
Well, he would only be making breakfast burritos for, say, half or a third of the employees at any given time. So you need less of him.
Yeah, but he still probably costs the same amount per day, right?
No, you would probably need fewer of them. So you get by with one chef instead of 3. And one office, it's a shared working office. Although that also gets weird because it's like, oh, this is the, shared work office with like a Bob and, and I don't know, somebody else. And it's like Bob always eats Doritos and there's always Dorito dust all over everything.
Have you heard of hot desking?
Yeah.
That sounds like the biggest nightmare.
Yeah.
Way worse than the open office.
Yeah. I've also seen that referred to as hoteling. It's like, oh, this is my office this week, and it's just...
But here's the thing. Let's say you have 3 breakfast burrito chefs, right? And you only need 1. But the best one is a white male.
He's gone. Sorry.
Well, not this year. Oh, wait, that already happened this year. So definitely not this year. But next year, maybe, you will get to board the hype train in person.
CES 2022 will return to Las Vegas in person. The tech gathering will happen on location next January after 2021's all-digital event. That is unless, of course, there's a mutation.
Or the whole India thing bleeds over again.
Well, that ultimately would be a mutation.
So, look forward to that, I guess. And this story harkens back to that whole YouTube story. Remember?
It was pulled this morning. It was pulled this morning.
Oh, from there.
Yeah.
So if you remember that whole thing about YouTube making a lot of money, more and more people are getting on the YouTube platform. It's actually increasing where all the other big media companies are not. It makes you wonder about this. Do they really need to go this hard?
Roku warns YouTube TV customers that service could go dark due to Google's monopoly moves and disappointed. YouTube says it's bargaining in good faith update. So, you guys are the cattle. Like, this is not good for the user. The user doesn't matter in this equation. And this is one of the stories that you should, internalize and keep with you forever. Never forget that you are basically cattle to these companies. Because what is a Roku? It's a glorified web browser. How is this any, it's kind of an argument for Google, but at the same time, it's kind of not, because it's like, it's a media consumption device. They should not be the gatekeepers of that. Period. That should not be part of their business model.
And, when the media is broken up like it is now, and you have all these different sources for it, and all these different places that are trying to aggregate it, you're buying from Roku, but ultimately it's not Roku's decision what you can see on a Roku.
Yeah.
So they sold it to you without any plans of doing something like this, and yet they don't have a choice. They have to remove a huge part of your enjoyment.
Yeah.
Just build a little HTPC. You don't need Roku. It'll cost a little more, but you'll never have to deal with this, and it'll be so much faster.
Yeah.
And you can watch 4K. I figured that you got a nice little shot of Schadenfreude.
Yeah, I did.
Reading this headline. And I got to admit, it does not look good.
No, it's just Oracle MO, standard issue behavior for Oracle executives.
I don't know if it's standard issue, but it's bad.
Oracle VP Ken Glueck suspended by Twitter for doxing an Intercept reporter. Basically, he posted and was like, hey, everybody go harass her. And that is not something that is behavior, that is becoming of an executive.
Well, but you're leaving out, she exposed some very unpleasant truths about Oracle and this man.
Alleged truths.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not looking good for the home team, though.
He wrote a blog post, saying why that wasn't true. It didn't seem super convincing. And then on top of that, he sort of weaponized his Twitter followers.
Oracle's actually been doing a good job with their cloud services thing lately, but the cloud services wins notwithstanding. Before that, they were about 70% intellectual property litigation and 30% technology. So, yeah.
Well, this was about those banned Chinese companies. Remember that?
Yeah.
Well, Oracle might be selling them stuff on the down low.
Yeah.
And this reporter might have sniffed it out.
Do you not understand? That's how we do business. We've already saturated the American market. We have to expand. We have to sell to Iran. They're the only ones that have dollars left.
And as we mentioned, India having a bit of a tough time right now. They're kind of where China was when all this started.
Yeah.
And the Modi government, they don't like to be criticized. They really, really don't like to be criticized.
The New York Times has this article. The outbreak rages. India orders critical social media posts to be taken down.
Now, this is not even like anti-vax.
No, one of the posts that they had taken down was a complaint that, like, there was a bunch of people on an airplane that boarded with a thing that say that they had been tested and that they were negative. But then when they landed, they were tested, and like over 50 people on the flight actually tested positive. And that was one of the things they wanted taken down.
Because it's just embarrassing. It's not misinformation. It's not anything that you would consider to be, against the spirit of doing our best during the pandemic. It's just information that's embarrassing to the government.
We had those other stories earlier in the week about, France and the UK and stuff like that. And when you see those kinds of stories about extremism, you have to look, because when we build the mechanisms to make it that easy, there is the temptation in situations like this to do that.
I assumed it was Bitche. It's not. They clarify in the story. It's Bitche.
Facebook flummoxed by the town in France. I'm not going to bait the algorithm. I'm sorry.
That's not one of the 7 words. Do you think the algorithm?
Algorithm doesn't care. Algorithm is a fickle mistress.
So yeah, they point out the E is silent, and they have run afoul of this before.
The algorithm keeps deleting the city, and they keep putting it back. And then the new version of the algorithm keeps deleting the city. Again, it's a common theme on the Level 1 news. How is the algorithm oppressing humanity? There's Exhibit A.
So they have faltered or given up and made a new Facebook page that is their postal code instead. With the hopes.
Yeah, I was going to say, how long do you think it is before they officially change the name of the town? Because that's how, this is not the first time we've had this story. There have been at least 2 other stories that we've covered, and it's like, ha ha ha, this happened, and then 6 months later, it's like, okay, now they're considering changing the name of the town because they can't fight the algorithm. Do you think you're going to be able to fight the algorithm when it lives in your car if they can't change the name of a town?
They also pointed out, and this is terrifying, and I guess we kind of have this, but we still do have local news. This is such a small town in France. They don't have local news, so Facebook is their de facto news outlet.
And that's why the future of humanity is doomed.
Spotify is obviously trying to get into the podcast space. I'll tell you, I'm a Spotify user. I just do not get tempted by the podcast. I don't care. But they really, really, really want to make that a thing, and they're doubling down.
Spotify is launching a podcast subscription system, and unlike Apple, it won't take a cut from creators. It's like, hey, you want to create a popular podcast? Come to Spotify. We're not going to take a cut yet.
Did you see Joe Rogan's anti-vax comments?
He got in a lot of trouble for those.
Oh, the internet went crazy over that. That's hilarious.
I think Dr. Fauci personally responded to those as well.
But that was a big dream for him.
Oh, I was hoping the story was in nonsense. It should have gone in nonsense.
Well, it's social media.
No, it's also nonsense.
He's trying.
It's a good lead into Friday.
And it is our last story of the day, because I always try to make the most entertaining stories last. And this one is fantastic. It's fantastic. I need to know the number, don't you? I want to know how much this cost. That is the only thing that I don't know that I desperately need to know.
Coding experts tell Salon that Mike Lindell's botched social site was doomed to fail. So he tried to use Drupal apparently for a social media site, and it folded like a paper crane.
Now, we've used Drupal a lot, and can confirm right around 10,000 records.
It starts to get a little problematic.
Now, you can do other things to make it work. And that, I mean, you have to basically go outside of its machinery and do it yourself, but it'll still work. But according to the Acquia guy who was running through this,
they didn't even turn on aggregation.
They didn't know the first thing about it. They basically installed it as if it were a blog and then said, all right, let's use this for a Twitter clone.
Well, at least it was not WordPress.
They would already be hacked. Although, how long until they let a security update go too long?
Yeah, the first security update, literally the first one.
So this went down on Thursday, and Thursday of the because
a week ago.
This is Wednesday. Okay, yeah. So last Thursday, and still it's up, but it's not actually letting you do anything other than watch like 2 videos.
So it's just static HTML at this point, as they're like, well, I don't know.
So, and the guy, the Aqua guy, was like, yeah, I love Drupal. Listen, I've been working with Drupal for like 15 years. Don't use Drupal for this. That's really stupid.
Oh, we can all point and laugh. Great. All right, so Friday we've got a bunch of nonsense, and what's left?
Actually, 2 design stories. I forgot that Krista wasn't going to be here. We'll look at those anyway. And security. Have we done security yet?
No, there is actually a fair bit of security news this week too.
So it'll be security nonsense and a little bit of design without Krista. So
we'll see Friday.